It's not a new tool. It's a new tool to me. I learned about it from one of the guy who does Ditch That Textbook. He shared it in one of his newsletters, and I showed it to Kayla, and we were like, this is awesome. It is a tool that allows you to put prompts in for students. They then respond to those prompts by recording themselves, and then that information actually gets put into an AI review, and AI can give feedback on their thinking in the video that they post. And then after that, the student has the option to either re-record if they want to, or if they like what they've provided and they get good feedback from the AI and they want to submit it, they can. You can set it up so that they can respond and not receive feedback from the AI if you just wanted to maybe set up a video and have them read so you could check on reading fluency. Or the foreign language teachers over at the high school said that they would just set it up so that students could have practice with speaking in the language that they're learning, and they wouldn't necessarily have to receive feedback on that from the AI, but you can choose how you want to set it up. So we think that this is really similar to Flipgrid, which is a tool we used to be able to use for video recording, but it just has that additional feature of immediate feedback through AI. And from what we've seen, it's just been very cool as far as teachers who have already used it and just in the times that we've played around with it. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video for you, and this will give you a quick overview of what Snorkel's all about.
As teachers, we believe that every student has ideas worth celebrating. It's powerful when we give students the opportunity to explain and share their reasoning. But it just isn't possible to listen and give feedback to everyone in the classroom. Enter Snorkl, the teaching tool where students record explanations and get AI feedback. With teacher-created prompts and a library of math, science, and more, teachers assign students activities. Students record their verbal explanation and show their problem-solving process on our digital whiteboard. Snorkel's AI listens to student explanations and provides immediate, personalized feedback unique to each student's strengths and strategy. As students respond, Snorkl AI identifies class-wide trends, learning gaps, and opportunities for future instruction. Snorkl offers teachers insights in seconds. Students grow in confidence as they share and revise their ideas. The result is deeper learning for students and stronger insights for teachers. It's time to dive in. Join Snorkl today at snorkl.app.
All right, so that's just a quick overview to explain the whole idea of Snorkl. Like I said, you put a prompt in, students record, they submit that recording for AI feedback, and then they can re-record if they choose to. But in the end of a class's submissions of videos, you also get some AI insights that tell you what your class is really doing well with, what they need some more work on, and just really areas where you'll be able to focus for remediation. So it's pretty handy. I did want to share, because when I first looked at this, I was like, I don't understand what the purpose of it being called Snorkl is. So this is one of the creators of the tool, and at all of their events where they are set up as a vendor, they wear these cool snorkel masks. In fact, Steve Blakely came to me today and said that when he was at their math conference, these guys were walking around the vendor hall with their snorkels on. And his explanation of why they called it Snorkl was because with really simple tools like a snorkel, we can do really powerful things like being able to snorkel and seeing all of the really cool things that are in the ocean, taking a deep dive, and in this case, taking a deep dive into student understanding and learning about concepts. I'm going to show you guys some examples of activities today, but I thought this particular clip of this video did a really good job of showing different types of activities that you can put together with Snorkl to push out to your students. And since I don't really have a class that I can push things out to, I thought this would be a good way for you to see those different types of activities. Go back there.
Snorkl.app is our website. And in Snorkl, there are pre-created activities, and you can create your own activities for any content area and any grade level. And so we support students to share and explain their thinking in math class, in ELA reading class, in Spanish class, in social studies and science, any subject area where you want students to talk and share and explain, or write and draw and show and get feedback on their work. Just for a quick snapshot here of what different Snorkl activities can look like. Snorkl activities can look like students responding to a math question from their teacher. I'm going to show you how this works in just a second with this math problem here, but you can also use Snorkl for students to respond to a question about a reading and understanding what the author's asking in that reading. You can use Snorkl to have students actually read a story out loud and get feedback on their reading fluency. You can use Snorkl to have students respond to questions and prompts in Spanish class using their Spanish language, or German class, or Chinese, or Mandarin, all sorts of different options to support students in a variety of different settings with Snorkl. And in science class, you can have students analyze the results of a scientific experiment, look at a data table, share and reflect on their learning so that they get the opportunity to be celebrated in that learning.
All right, he goes through different content areas where you could use this, and I can think of 100 ways that you could put something on a whiteboard. That's something that's pre-created, or something that you just even tell students, like, I want you to go to a whiteboard and do this in Snorkl, and then let it analyze your thinking. There's endless opportunities for what we can put on this whiteboard, but just think about the different areas that you focus with your instruction. I think right now is a perfect time to learn about this and start using it, because I know many of you are getting ready to jump into, or have already jumped into, standardized testing practice with MAP and EOC. And I think it would be really such a great opportunity to put some of those questions on this whiteboard here in Snorkl and ask your students to respond, and to get their thinking as they're thinking through if it's an ELA prompt or if it's a math problem, and then have the AI analyze that so that you can see as a class, how are students doing with this specific concept? Is this something I need to cover more in depth? Is this something we need to come back to? And just to practice some of those concepts a few times before testing time. Okay, so if you have never used it or never signed up, we're going to click right here, and that's going to take us to snorkl.app. And right up here, you're going to click this sign up button. You can follow along and do this with me, or if you want to just watch and then jump in when you have a device in front of you to use, you can do it that way too. But you guys are going to click the sign up with Google button, and I do believe you'll have to give a few details about yourself, but once you sign up with Google, you'll just be able to sign in with your Google account. And then here we have the Snorkl dashboard. It's very user friendly. Everything's laid out right here the way you need it. You can take a look at some sample activities if you want to just see what's available. You can find an activity. So Snorkl has a library of activities that are separated by content area. If I click into the library, you can see just how much they've built. Since I've started using this, they've added like 3 different blocks down here that weren't here when I started using this like 3 weeks ago. They are building and building more into these different content areas. But if you're looking for something that is related to a grade 2 math concept, you can click here. It'll give you the list of different topics that those are based around. And then you can even take a look at one. So if I knew that I was going to be working with my students and I wanted them to count by fives, I can see the prompt here says, Lily starts at 4 and adds fives. What are the ones digits of all the numbers? And so if I want to, I can click try as a student. So this is what it would look like if I push this out as an assignment, and I wanted a student to come in and respond to this particular prompt. And you'll see throughout Snorkel, there are several places where you'll see this little icon. That's where it'll actually be read to the student.
Lily starts at 4 and adds fives. What are the ones digits of all the numbers?
And it's got a pretty natural voice that it's reading with. As a student comes into one of these assignments and clicks this start response button, they're going to get some explanation of what they need to do on their whiteboard activity. Click the let's go button, and then they can go ahead and click this record screen and voice button, and that's going to record them as they are doing whatever they need to do on this page. Some students might feel uncomfortable trying to think and work out the problem and do the annotating on the screen. If you are okay with it, you might tell students, you can go up here and use these different options to annotate what you want to say before you actually start recording. If I wanted to maybe do a number line and say I'm starting at my 4, and then show how I would maybe add those fives and then talk about the ones digits of those numbers. I could go ahead and draw all of that out. And then when I'm ready as the student, I could click this button and then explain, why have I used this number line? Why did I have this 4? And what are the ones numbers that I see as I'm adding my fives along that number line? So that's one option if that's something you would be okay with students doing rather than having to try to draw while they're thinking. We played with this a little bit in our office and realized it's really hard sometimes when you're trying to you're being recorded and you're also drawing things out and you're trying to say what you need to say, but you're also just trying to maneuver a mouse to get it to draw what you need it to draw. So that's an option. All right. If you go into student mode, it is important to know that right up here, if you click this little bar, it'll take you back to teacher mode. I didn't find that for a while the first time I went into student mode. So just click that little bar and it will take you back. So you can look through these and see what different options they already have built into the library. We've played with it and they've got a lot of really good prompts that work for the different grade levels. And this just gives you a place to start. That's the Snorkl library. And then right over here, this last box on the home page is create an activity. And that's where you'll go if you want to create your own activity and put your own information onto the whiteboard. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into what this looks like. It does first want you to give it a title. So I'm just going to put sample assignment for now. And then right here, I'm going to click add question, and I'm going to get the same editing tools that students get, but this is for me to build my question. If you want to be able to draw something, you've got a drawing tool and a highlighter. The text box is the one that I've obviously played around the most with. So if you just want to have text on the screen, or if you want to use the text box and be able to build numbers in 245 plus 379, and then, make a however you want. They also do have an equation editor. So if you want to add an equation, you can use the different editing tools here to create that. They've got shapes, lines, and then you can also insert an image. One day when I did this, I went to Google Slides and I made something on the Google slide and then I downloaded it as a picture. And then I just came in and uploaded that as my background. So that's one way you could do it. But I really think the easiest way is just to come in here and use the tools if it's something that you're building from scratch. I'm going to show you how I would do this if I was going to build a whiteboard that had an EOC released item on it. So I'm going to put a text box right here. I went ahead and found an example of an EOC test for released items. So I'm going to copy this question. And I'm going to come back over to my whiteboard. And I'm going to paste this. I did realize that when I pasted it, all of the text was white. So You have to change that back to black, but let me figure out where this cuts off. Here we go. All right, so I just want the one question here, and the instruction is read the quote from paragraph 4 of the passage. And then at the end of the quote, I just want the question separated from the answer choices. So I'm going to fix the formatting here. And then you can stretch this out if you want it to fill the page a little bit better. And then once I've got my question, I'm going to click my Done Editing button. So that's going to show up on my question dashboard. If I want additional instructions, I can. So if I want to go ahead and in my instructions tell students that they need to record and they need to explain their thinking while they're recording, and then they need to select the right answer, I could put all of that right here into the instructions text box. I think the best way to approach this is you might want to make one and then actually model it in front of your class, because I think sometimes it's hard for students to see themselves thinking out loud. And that's the purpose of this tool. So I would recommend before you use this and actually send the assignment to them, maybe put one on the board and say, this is what I would expect you to say out loud in your video before you actually hit that record button. And then that just gives them an idea of how should I verbalize my thinking on a passage like this. And then right down here, you've got AI feedback settings. So you have two different options. You can generate it from the question. So basically the AI is going to read what is on the screen up here and analyze it and come up with the AI feedback that it thinks it should give. Or you can set up manually. However, I will highly recommend that you use the generate from question option. As we have played around with this, we have found that the generate from question option will give the most detailed AI feedback information to the prompt, and it will come back with the best responses for your students if you use this option. So I'm going to show you what that looks like if you click generate from question. Takes it just a couple minutes to analyze, and then it will actually pull up what the feedback settings are that it came up with. So it's saying, read the quote from paragraph 4 of the passage. It's got the whole prompt in here. And then right down here, this is the important part. An exemplar response would show that the correct answer is B, which is correct. So the AI did get that right. And then the explanation that the students should exemplify with their thinking out loud is the quote emphasizes the uniqueness and unparalleled beauty of Arizona's natural wonder and urges humans to leave it untouched. And then they actually cite a specific quote from that passage, and all of that is correct, and all of it supports the correct answer being B. So if I was working on this, I would say, yes, I like those feedback settings. I'm going to confirm. Obviously, as we have talked about AI, we've said we want to make sure that we always check AI, because it's very possible that what it comes back with may not be exactly what it needs to be. So always make sure on these AI feedback settings that you check what it comes up with and that it is correct. I would even say right here, so this is from a English 1 prompt. So I'm going to actually move this to high school just in case the students can see that. When it gets pushed out to them, I would want it to be the right grade level for them. Okay, so once all of that is set up, my prompt is ready, and I can come up here to my assign button. And I've already created a class, which I'll show you guys how to do in a few minutes, but I'm going to click my sample class. That's who I want it to get pushed to. I'm going to click next. And then I have all of these different activity setting options. So I can have a start date and a due date. I can allow a guest login, which would mean that instead of the students signing in with Google, they could just jump into the prompt without having to log into an account, which might be helpful for younger students who you don't want to have to go through the process of logging them into their Google account so that they can then log into Snorkl. That's maybe just something you want to test out. They would just be able to then click on the assignment link and probably add their name and then do the activity. And then collaboration allows you to set it up so that students can view and comment on anonymous responses. So they won't be able to see what student posted what, but they can view what was posted and then be able to comment on one another's thinking on those videos. So all of that's up to you, but I think some of these could be handy depending on what you're doing. Obviously, Snorkl Coach doesn't let me turn that on. That's a premium feature, but basically students would be able to talk to the AI ahead of time to help them process through their thinking before they actually even started recording. All right, I'm going to click the assign button, and you'll see that when I create the assignment, it gives me this link right here. So that is the link to that assignment. I can go ahead and copy this if I want. And then if I was taking this to then push to my students, if I'm doing this for upper grades, I'm going to go paste this in Google Classroom, and that's where my students are going to go to access it. Now, if you have younger students and you want them to be able to access it a different way, you have different options for how you can do that. So now I can click Go to Activity, and I can see Lydia is my student in this class. I only have one student, but she's the one who could click on this and start completing it as a student. But I can also come up here and click again, try as a student, so I can see what does the prompt that I just built look like for students. All right, so that's what it would look like for Lydia if she opened this up. Start response. And she's going to get what I put on the screen. She would click that record screen and voice button, and as she's reading this, she could read it out loud, and then she could come down and say, I think the answer is, and circle the correct answer, and even maybe come up and highlight something that supports what she's saying. If she wanted to specifically note a word or something that Theodore Roosevelt says, she could put that in a box if she wanted to. So lots of annotation options and lots of different ways for students to illustrate what they're thinking as they're talking through their response. All right, so let us jump right back out to the home area. So we've talked about trying a sample activity, finding one in the library, and creating one from scratch. The other important area for you to know about is classes, and that's where you'll have to go to be able to build a class, and you will have to have a class created before you can assign anything. So if you click on classes, it's really easy to start a class. You just click this create class button and give it a name. So I'm going to say English 1 second hour. Okay. It does let you choose colors for them if you want to color code them. And then to get students in my class, I'm going to come over here to this students button, and I'm going to click invite. So there's different ways that I can invite students to come into my Snorkl classroom. I can copy this link, and once they click on this link, it's going to bring them in as a student. And I would say that's probably the easiest way to get students in. Just post this in Google Classroom as your class invitation, and it will automatically add your students to this class in Snorkl. But you can also have students go to snorkl.app, and there will be a place that they can enter a class code, and they can just type this in. If you're working with students who have a hard time logging into Google Classroom and you don't want to have to go through all those steps, you could also just have them go to snorkl.app and type that in. They also have a QR code option if that's something that your students would prefer to do, or if you have iPads and you'd like to have them jump in that way by scanning that. All right, now that we've gone through the teacher side of things, I do want to show you what it looks like once a student has gone in, clicked on one of the activities, and then actually completed it. So this sample class, I have created a few assignments, and I've had Lydia, my student, complete a couple of those. So I'm going to just show you. This is one that I pushed out, add with regrouping. When students do submit their responses, you're going to have this responses area. So if I had multiple students in here, you would see multiple videos on my dashboard. It gives them what is called their best try. So when they record a video, as I said, they will get feedback from the AI. And if they want to record again, if they have multiple tries, but one of those seems to get a better response from the AI than another, the best try is going to show up when you're selected right here. The latest is going to be the one that they recorded most recently. And then if you want to see all of them, if you want to know if a student recorded more than once, you can click on all. Let me jump to one where there was more than one response. Okay, so right here you can see all. Lydia did 2 separate videos for this one. And so you can review those. The nice thing about jumping into this is if I look at a student's video, I can actually watch the whole thing.
Okay, when I do this problem, I'm going to start in the ones place, and I'm going to add 8 and 2 and get 10. I'm going to carry the 1. Then I'm going to add 8 plus 6 plus 1, and I'm going to get 14. And then 4 plus 1 is 5.
Okay, so that was Lydia trying this out. She was intentionally wrong on that math problem because we wanted to make sure that the AI would catch that incorrect answer. So you can see right here, she submitted it, and these were the responses she got from AI. These little marks here are where the AI is referring to when it gave her feedback. So this one that says, great job, starting with the ones place, you correctly found that 8 plus 2 is 10, and remembered to carry your 1. So that's where it gives her that feedback. The next one it provided was, I like how you knew to add the carried 1 when working with 8 plus 6. When you got 14 here, what should you do with that number? Think about whether you need to carry again, because she didn't actually verbalize that. And then right down here at the end, the AI says, I noticed that your final answer is 540. When we get a 2-digit number like 14 in the tens place, how can we make sure we're showing all those tens in our answer? So basically the AI is telling her, you need to rethink how many tens you added up right here, because she should have gotten a 5 and then carried the 1. So the AI did know that she didn't add those numbers correctly, and it gave her feedback to rethink that. So once she recorded that, if she read this feedback and realized, oh, I didn't do that correctly, she could tell it to re-record. And when the student clicks the re-record button, it asks, do you want to start with a blank whiteboard, or do you want to start with the annotations you've already made? So they can choose. If they don't want to have to rewrite everything that they've already drawn, they can pick back up from where they started. Or if they just wanted to completely start over, they could have a blank whiteboard and totally start from the beginning of their thinking. You'll also notice that when I'm in here as a teacher, I have a couple of options for providing feedback. So if I have assigned this and my teacher or my students have done all of the work and worked out their problems, and they have come in and they've reviewed their AI, and maybe they've reworked the problem again, and then they realize they got their answer correct. So right up here, you can see her answer is correct and her explanation is 2 out of 4, only fair. If she did this again and got it correct and then got a 4 out of 4 and submitted it, then I could come in here and say, great job using the feedback to make corrections on your original thinking. And then I can do a couple of things. I can make this a private comment. I can make it a public comment, which would mean that other people, if I have it set up so that students can see one another's videos and each other's comments, I could make it public and they could see my comment as well. And I can hit send, or I can even click this little record button down here and I can send a video response to Lydia based on her video. Maybe she didn't correct this and I wanted to create my own video where I work it out, I could come in here and record and show you got 8 plus 6 plus 1. So really your answer right here should have been 8 plus 6 plus 1 is 15. So that should have been a 5. And then you were correct here where you carried the 1 and brought your 5 down. So your answer should be 550. And then I could send that to her as a little video comment. So clearly, you've got the AI feedback, you've got the teacher feedback. This is a great tool for just providing a lot of feedback on student thinking about a specific concept. Another thing that's really great, if you have multiple students who come in and they've answered this, and so I have videos that are in this library for this particular assignment, I can also come right up here and click on Insights. And it would tell me that if there are any trends that it notices in student responses, it would tell me what those trends are. Like maybe most of my students did a really good job with the ones place and carrying that 1, but a couple of them misunderstood how to repeat that process in the tens place. And so I would know specific students who weren't very good at that. And then it would also give me some ideas of who to work with on what specific skill. So in this case, I would maybe pull Lydia for a small group lesson on here's how we carry in the ones place, but we also do that when we get over here to the tens place, and then work with her on that so that she gets better with that process. Another thing that you can do here when you're in an assignment is you can export these responses. So you have to actually go into the video and click your 3 dots right here, and you can download a specific student's video. Maybe you have all of your students work out a problem and a couple of their responses are really good and it's something that you want to be able to use in the future to show students how to work out this kind of problem. Or maybe it's just a really good, well thought out response and you want to use it as a model for how to give a thoughtful response on this tool. You could download it and then save that in your Google Drive or wherever to have for future reference. All right, I'm going to come over here to progress. This is where you'll see a grade book or an overall view of any activities you have created. It'll also show you the score that your students have received on that activity. And I think you can click on these from here and be able to jump right into them if you want to. Again, I can come up here and change this from best try to their first try or their latest try. So if I want to see how things change as they're working on an activity, I can. And then just on that dashboard, you have just a few other resources for you. We are looking at what's called the free account version of Snorkl. So you do only get up to 20 assignments or activities with the free account. However, when you create one and you delete it later, it takes that back. If I want to delete this sample assignment I created and I come back to my home page, I have 3 instead of 4 out of 20 activities. So you can use them and then get rid of them if you want to. You also just have some learning resources, what is it, how to get started. As I've shown you, everything's pretty user-friendly and easy to use, easy to set up. For the students, I showed you this when I went into that try as a student, but for them to complete their assignment, they will click on the assignment link. So you can, like I said, put that in Google Classroom and just have the students click on the link from there. Or if you want to just have them go to snorkl.app, every assignment will have a code that will then push them into that activity. So you can give them that, and then they'll click that start response button, and then they have the options to record their screen and voice while they're thinking. If they mess up and they want to cancel and redo it, or stop and then continue recording from wherever they had stopped recording, they can use those buttons. And then at the end, when they're ready, they can click that submit button and it will then send it to you, and you'll be back at the place where you're able to review your videos. As students are completing the assignment, they'll see that feedback from AI. This is what it looks like when they get the page to respond again. So if they want to redo a response, they click a respond again button. And as I said, they'll get the option to just get their previous whiteboard, which will be the one where they've made annotations or comments or whatever drawing they've done on that. They can pick up with that again, or they can start with a blank whiteboard. And then after the new response and they've submitted to you, you'll have the opportunity to provide your own feedback to them based on what they submitted. So it doesn't take a long time to really get familiar with it and figure it out. I've had a couple of teachers who I've shown it to, and they used it the next day in class and they've loved it. I really do look forward to hearing from you guys if this is something that you decide that you can use with your students. And we'd love to know how it goes. We'd even love to come in and see you use it on a day. If you just want us to come observe and help you out with using it, we would love to do that.